Did the Washington Post, in a Freudian slip, give away what's really going on with the Biden classified documents cover up? That what's actually being covered up is the paper trail to the Hunter Joe Ukraine money laundering connection.
Joe Biden, he's the man with the Biden touch, a creepy touch.
Of course, everybody's got theories right now about what's going on regarding the Joe Biden classified documents fiasco for the White House. And it really is, because the media is working overtime trying to establish that there's a huge difference between what Joe Biden did versus what Donald Trump did. That, it's okay that Joe did it. He was just a little careless about where he left the papers. But what Donald Trump did was awful. He stole documents and then refused to give them back, and that's why the FBI had to raid him. Well, it's not at all what happened. Team Trump let the National Archives know what they had. They were in negotiation back and forth about what apparently Donald Trump wanted to keep. I don't know why. Personally, this is a me thing. I'm going to be really honest with you. When I leave a job and go to another job, I don't take the old job with me. That's just me. But these guys, all of them, I don't care, left, right, Democrat, Republican. When you're a president, you think about your quote, your legacy. You build these edifices to yourself in what we call presidential libraries. I don't know many people that go visit them, but that being what it is, we understand. These guys like to bring along their memorabilia. Get it, understand it. They all do it. That said, there were obviously some things that Donald Trump wanted to keep, and so his lawyers were in negotiation, blah, 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 blah. We know what happened at that point. Team Biden, especially Joe Biden, because, again, the left is really good at accusing us of the things that they themselves are oh so guilty of. They are hypocrites on steroids. It's really amazing. And they always assume the worst about us because of their own proclivities and their own behaviors. Never forget that. But I am sure Team Biden, working with, compromised Merrick Garland, decided, aha, this is the issue. This is how we nail Trump. We send the FBI in, they take stuff out of his house, and, this disqualifies him from being president again, even though we all do it. This doesn't look good that the FBI had to go and raid the home of a former president to get back things that belong to the United States government. And that's the way the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media wants to frame this, that Donald Trump took something and they had to raid his home. They raided Barron Trump's bedroom. Hey, has any FBI agent ever gone through any of Hunter Biden's bedrooms? They went through Melania's underwear drawer. I would ask if they've ever been through Jill Biden's underwear drawer, but apparently no one wants to do that, including Joe. So, when they try to talk about it, it's different. It's not different. But some of you have said, yeah, if you listen to the media, they really are trying to cover for Joe. They are and they aren't, because it is mainstream media outlets like CBS, ABC, and even a little bit now CNN. They're pushing back, and they're really getting over Jean-Claude Van Damme, the press secretary. I call her the Black Shirley Temple with those curly ringlets. On the timeline of everything. Well, you guys knew about this 6 days before the midterm elections, but we didn't find out about it till now. And, it keeps coming out in drips and drabs. What are these papers? Dan Bongino started floating the idea a couple of days ago that, as a former Secret Service member himself, he's been there during transitions. When one administration's leaving, another one is coming in. And one of the things that you do the last couple of days you're in office is you start undecorating. You start taking your pictures off the wall. You start gathering up your personal things. I'm in my church office today. I've got my family's pictures here. I've got personal things up on the bookshelves around me here. And if the day ever comes that I leave here, those things will go with me. They're mine. And I am sure that presidents, vice presidents, etc., they get mementos from, heads of state that come to see them. And there are things that get packed up, and you're kind of there to make sure that gets done. Joe Biden was over in Ukraine literally 48 hours before the Trump administration came in. And the Washington Post is talking about that Joe Biden had been lobbying Barack Obama to give Ukraine weapons. And Barack Obama did not want to weaponize Ukraine. He understood what that meant. And that weaponizing Ukraine, a nation which was already bombing some of its own citizens because they wanted to stay connected to Russia, that giving them military weapons was only going to escalate the problems with Russia. Bump, ba-dum, bump. What do we have now, boys and girls? We have a president who has basically said billions of dollars and an endless supply of military weaponry is Ukraine's for the asking. And no end in sight. Why? You all remember, Joe Biden loves to brag about it, that he went over to Ukraine and told them if they didn't fire the attorney general looking into Burisma, because he was corrupt, they weren't going to get any military aid from Barack Obama. And they fired him. And what was that attorney general looking into? Burisma, the company that Hunter Biden had his no-show gig, earning millions of dollars, having absolutely no experience whatsoever in natural gas. And the theory has been, and we have all been talking about it for years, hey, obviously what was going on is they were buying influence, paying Hunter Biden a lot of money so they could influence his father to have influence on favors and things for Ukraine. And did the Washington Post actually provide us with the smoking gun? That just hours before the incoming Trump administration, that was when Joe Biden was in Ukraine, as his office is being packed up. Don't miss this. We do know, because the media has told us, that most of these classified documents that went out the door and were in places like the Biden Penn Center, Joe's garage, which Hunter had access to, Joe's house, a lot of them had to do with Ukraine. At that same time, Hunter Biden, who was out there, looking for other advisory positions, using his last name, selling influence, he had to list his income and his expenses. And the very house that Joe Biden resides in, Hunter Biden claimed was his house, yet he's showing $49,000 a month rental payments to his dad. The house that had the Ukraine documents in the garage. Is that how the money was laundered? Is rent? Is that the money for the big guy? Was rent and the expenses of the house given to dad? Is that how that was all covered? Is that the problem with these classified documents coming to light? No matter what, there is obviously somebody within Team Biden who was given the green light to start handing these over and start creating problems. And again, the media keeps taking all of Biden's attorneys' talking points. Well, when we discovered these documents, we turned them over to the National Archives. Or did the National Archives discover they were missing and start calling? Bum, ba-dum, bum. It's just the level of corruption here, I think, is far worse than we can possibly imagine. But I don't believe we're off base in believing that the powers that be are going to use this twofold. Yes, Joe's got to go. And this will be the issue. And then they will use this issue as leverage against the Republicans to say, hey, our guy mishandled and he's now disqualified. So's your guy. This is going to get very, very interesting. And they're going to try to say that what he did was negligent, but it wasn't criminal. But in reality, it was oh so very criminal. And again, when I hear the hags at The View talk about,
Joe Biden's attorneys were handling this stuff, and who knows who was handling it for Donald Trump.
I'm sorry, Joe Biden's attorneys have security clearance. And we don't know that was just his attorneys. Again, for a year, they sat in the closet of an empty office. Who had access to that office? Who had access to Joe's house? They don't even have a visitor log. They took security footage from Mar-a-Lago. The security cameras, the security footage, they took them. The FBI during their raid. Why? So they could see who was coming and going. Have the FBI even asked for the security footage from Biden's home in Delaware? We know they didn't kick any doors down looking for it. It's all getting very, very interesting.